Okay, there we go. All right. Hello, everybody. What do you say, gang? It is the American Doofus Show. Thank you so much for watching. Don't be a doofus. Do consider subscribing, like the video, share the video, and leave a comment if you would, if you're watching this on delay. If you're joining us live, you can join the show either in comments or if you'd like to come on and talk about something, we'll give you the opportunity to do that as well. And hopefully Summer Dickerson is going to be joining us in a little bit, and we're going to be talking about the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and the fact that some John Does remain anonymous. I'm going to start out here before we get too deep into anything. Just give you a quick look as to what's happening on the CNN page, if I can get it up there. Okay. Giuliani led fake electors plot. The Trump campaign was involved in a plan to put forward illegitimate electors from 7 states that Trump lost, and this is according to 3 sources. And Virginia Congressman blasts Mitch McConnell for comments on voters of color. Mitch is the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, Senate majority or minority leader. And I'm just going to read the comments real quick. Here's what he said. It was during a weekly news conference, and he was asked by a Latino Rebels news outlet reporter, Pablo Manriquez. He asked what his message was to voters of color who are concerned they would not be able to vote in the midterms if Congress doesn't pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And this is what Mitch said. He said, well, the concern is misplaced because if you look at the statistics, African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans. A recent survey, 94% of Americans thought it was easy to vote. Voting is not a problem, turnout is up. So some people are interpreting that as Mitch McConnell saying that people of color aren't Americans. Just something to think about. I'll leave it up to you. Hi, Sissy. How are you? Hello to everybody out there that's watching. Thank you so much for watching. It's the People's Platform, Thursday Night Live. We'll be on here for a few minutes talking about a few things. And again, just opening up here, just showing what's going on in the news at the moment on Thursday, the 20th of January. 1 year ago today, President Joe Biden was inaugurated and took office. It's giving non-citizens votes. Okay. I want to mention a word, and the word is humankind. And I don't think that word is used enough. I don't think we think in terms of that word enough. Humankind. We are humankind. We are all united that way. Hey, Summer, we'll have you on here in just a minute. Hello to Kelvin Black and hello to Stuart. We're humankind. We are all part of the same species, regardless of the color of our skins. We have so much more in common, or we should have, than we have that divide us. But yet we get caught up on the dividers. And if we break that word down, humankind, break it in 2, human and kind. And That's my word for 2022, humankind. Because if we were more human to each other and we were more kind to each other, it would be a much better world. So I just determined just now, my word for 2022 is going to be humankind. And sadly, in the news, human trafficking, another word associated with human, is, hang on a second here. I'm going to figure out how to, okay. Hang on a second here. I'm putting a link up to get Summer on with us. Okay. Hopefully. And I don't know why it won't let me display this on chat. Okay. Did that come up? Hopefully it did. Okay. I highlighted T-Rex's comment. Sorry about that. I'm on my phone and it's got little tiny buttons. I'm trying to get, I don't want that. Trying to get where I can post a comment and copy. Well, bear with me, gang. I'm trying to get the link up so Summer can join. I don't know if it did or not. I don't think it has. Okay, I'm going to give this one more shot, and then I might have to have Summer come on a recorded episode like we did before. Copied. Okay. And post. No. Got it. Jeez. Sorry about that, everybody. There we go. Summer, if you want to hit that link, we'll get you on here. And let me go back here to T-Rex's comment. Hopefully Mitch McConnell will get his when Maxwell rats him out. Just something to think about. You know, I personally, and this is just my opinion, it's not the opinion of advertisers or of Summer or of anybody associated with coming on the show now or in the future. My opinion is the Clinton name and the Trump name will both be associated with what went on that island if it ever comes out. And there we go.
What's
Summer,
up?
how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Barry? Today is
I'm
my
good,
birthday
darling. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
and my anniversary. I got married on my birthday.
Awesome. Awesome. Double the presents or one giant present?
Double the presents.
Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. So you're what, 22, 23?
Wonderful 43, I'm proud to say.
Wow. Cool. I'm 63. So we got like a generation between us there.
Yeah, that's okay though. I'm kind of smart.
Yeah. Hey,
So,
I look at it as the alternative to being the age I am is to being dead. So I'm happy to be as old as I am and have been around as long as I have and have had the experiences I have. And
I agree.
I hope everybody lives a long, healthy, and happy life.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's your take on this um, this Maxwell situation? Um,
We, I went to New York actually during the trial. We did a big rally up there, supported a lot of the victims, and I got to, talk to them. And, I know actually someone that is going through this process right now. She is one of the people that has been testifying. So, I think right now she's in for better lack of words, like, I do think some names are going to come out. I potentially really think some judges and some politicians, some people attached to political things will be coming out. Some names I don't think that too many people have heard. Some, if you're like really underground, like some of us are, you may have heard. So I do suspect some names coming out. I think she's gonna she's got two strategies right now. She's trying to save her life. I don't think she's gonna get out. I think they're gonna try everything they can, but I don't know if she's gonna But I think she's gonna save her butt right now.
and they're fighting to keep the names secret.
Yes, they are.
Can you talk about how totally twisted all of this is to where the people that are actually funding everything by spending money to get their desires fulfilled
Yep.
are the ones that always get away. They're never held accountable.
Well, I think some of us understand the power and control of aspects, right? Of what this country is based on. The foundation, in my opinion, of what this country is based on is power and control. And this is just one. I think they're trying to keep it quiet because honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, as a victim and a survivor of human trafficking, and as knowing some of the big players, let's per se, to come out, I don't think America's ready, because for so long, survivors have been screaming some of these, majority of these big names that will come out if they can't keep them covered, right? And so, like, I just don't think the people are ready for it. And even, I think there's like this, it's like two groups. There's this like group that wants everything to come out, which is like me, because I feel like this will just, people don't trust the government for a reason. People don't trust power for a reason, because time and time again, over centuries and centuries, and especially when it comes to people and buying and selling and ownership of property of people, because that's what human trafficking is. And so I'm ready for him to come out. I'm ready. I think, but I think still some people with their mindset and what they head in the sand. Like, I don't know if the average day person is ready, and I don't know if they'll believe everything. I'm sure somebody will be like, "Oh, these people are lying." But it's an amazing time, but it's also a scary time, because unfortunately, this is a hard time for victims. You know, on a lot of levels, safety reasons, mental, physical, just spiritual health, because this is really hard. But it is good that the whole country's talking about it now. Thank God. You know what I mean? I've done more interviews in the past, I don't know, a couple of weeks than I have in a while. Which I'm happy about that. But it's the power and control aspect of it, really. Like, people are going to be blown away. And then what do we do? Because if we're fighting for freedom, right? However, we're doing it, right? To end racism, to get equality, all this. If we're leaving our kids out, because we have to keep in mind, these were children when these acts happened. The victims that are testifying in the Maxwell case, now, not all their children, not all their victims were children, but these particular victims, they were. So if we're not
When
protecting
the
our
events
children,
happened, they're
when
adults
the
now.
event,
They were
yeah,
when the events happened.
Yeah, when the events happened, when they took place, these were teenagers, these were young girls. And unfortunately, sometimes in America, I feel like, if a girl's 16, 17 years old, people are like, whatever. But like, if they're children still, 14, 15, 16 years old, those are still little kids, and grown people are doing this, and that power aspect of it. And I've said time and time again, she's just as bad, if not worse, than Epstein in my eyes. So I hope she gets everything
because
she's got coming to her.
because she was kind of the enabler. She
Well,
brought the girls in.
yeah,
Is
I mean,
that
no, not really, because like so in the structure of it, like there are women or victim, because I've heard, what if she's a victim? I don't think she's a victim. I think what takes her out of being a victim is her own power and be right. Like she was a very powerful woman in herself without Epstein. You know what I mean? Like just who she was.
mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
in trafficking, there's levels to everything. There's the pimps, there's the buyers, there's the victims, there's the what they call bottom bitches, depending on how you know what I mean. And that's like the main person. Sometimes they go get girls, whatever, but they're victims still because they're doing that because they have no choice. They're doing that in some situations, not at all. We're talking about trafficking situations. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing that because they don't really have a choice. I mean, women have been told, I'll kill people have said, I'll kill your kids, I'll kill you. You have to do this. And her aspect, she was doing this for pleasure. She was doing this for power. You know what I mean? To subpoena not only his beings, but hers as well, because she participated in some of this, a lot of it. So,
Now you mentioned she's scared for her life.
mhm. I mean, think about, okay, if we go, and I know Barry, you probably know the stories that I'm going to kind of reach to a little bit, but there's been plenty of women that were women of the night, prostitutes, escorts, whatever fancy name they want to put on it, right? That have came up missing and ended up dead or never to be found again in the history of politics.
Absolutely.
So, and it's made news, and it's like people didn't even blink eye. They just go on about their life, and
That's what I was
they're
going to
all
say. It either gets brushed under the carpet or it's deemed she got what she deserved, and
right.
it's never looked into as well. Who was judge, jury, and executioner?
Exactly. And I mean, majority of the time, girls like that are killed because they become a threat, or there might be secrets getting out, or whatever they have in their head. And then sometimes it just is power and control. They get off on killing people and getting away with it. So she has to know that. I mean, look where her boyfriend ended up. He didn't commit suicide. He killed himself.
Right.
So if I was
Yeah.
her, I would be. I mean, she has nothing to lose, right? Like, and then you think about the street justice of things. She goes into prison, them females they gonna deal with her. You know what I mean? Like I just know how certain prisons work. She messed with kids. They don't like people like that in jails. So either way, she's screwed. So it's either is she gonna do the rest of her life in prison, or is she gonna get some kind of protection so they don't kill her? I don't know what her goal is right at this second. Um, but she's always gonna look out for her. She don't care about the victims. She's not doing this for them. I'll say that. She's not doing this to bring peace to victims. She's not doing this, in my opinion. She's doing this to save her ass.
Okay. All
So,
right. Now
but
you
go ahead.
mentioned power and control.
Hmm.
Okay. There's the BDSM
Hmm.
sexual community that's based
Hmm.
around power and control. How's that different? Because somebody asked me when I said you were going to be on, they asked me to ask about this. Is how is that different from trafficking? I think I know how, but I
Right.
think I know how it's different, but you're the expert.
Yes. So the thing about trafficking, it's force, fraud, or coercion, right? So if somebody's forcing you to do these things, and they're threatening with, it could be a billion different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's different. But in the dominatrix world and the kink world and stuff like that, those people are, you're going like, hey, I want to go to a club. Hey, I want to do this with my boyfriend or my girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so even though it's a power and control structure, there's still an understanding of, there's usually safe words. There's, so I can't kink shame somebody because they like to be a little bit more freakier than some of us. They're
Mm-hmm.
willing to participants, right? So to me, that's number one difference is
Okay.
someone being forced in anything, right? Whether it's trafficking, forced to be sold, because you can even, and I tell people this all the time, like prostitution is not human trafficking. Now, majority of women that get into prostitution may end up being trafficked, right? Or, children or whatever, but it's a different thing. It's a totally, and stripping is different than human trafficking and prostitution. Prostitution and stripping are not the same. People connect so much of the sex industry together. Now, can trafficking happen in all those situations? 100%. Can rape
Okay.
happen? All that? Yes, it can. But they are different categories.
Okay. I wanted to get that out so that I don't think that's talked about enough either.
Yeah, I
That
try to talk about that because it's not.
that a person's sexuality is one thing. Uh, using buying and selling people
Something totally
is
different.
you can't lump them together.
Right. Not at all. I mean, I feel like, because there's different forms of slavery, human trafficking, because I call it the same thing, right? Like there's pimp control trafficking, there's familial trafficking, pimp control trafficking. There could be a gorilla pimp, there could be a Romeo pimp, and there's a difference between the gorilla pimps, kind of like they don't really give a two shit about anything. Sorry, I'm trying to get better on my
Except the
cussing
money.
on
That's
YouTube.
all
I
right.
really am. I'm
It's an
learning.
adult show. The show's
Yeah,
not
I'm
for kids.
learning. So okay, cool. So but so the gorilla pimp, yeah, he's kind of like crazy. The Romeo pimp, he's gonna like, boyfriend, kind of like boyfriend mentality type relationship. Then there's familial trafficking. That's where families are selling their kids or whatever family members for. It could be drugs, it could be rent, it could be food, it could be whatever. So there's spiritual ritual abuse trafficking, which that kind of goes on in the churches, which is something a lot of people don't think happens, but is actually very big in churches. Is
Hold on? Can you run that by me one more time?
the spiritual ritual one?
Yeah,
It's called spirit. It's a form of spiritual
spiritual ritual.
ritual abuse. It's a form of, it can be a form of trafficking.
Okay, go ahead. Because I
And so
think
that happens.
I don't think anybody's heard about this or not enough. And I just
Right.
want to, that's why I'm kind of stopping. So people watching are going to stop and draw attention to this.
Yes, please do. I can sometimes ramble, so my bad.
No, no.
um, but yeah, so there's all kinds of different forms of trafficking, and I think what the okey doke for everybody is like, and don't get me wrong, like I love when movies come out, and I understand people are trying to do their best to show stuff, right? But like domestic trafficking, which is here locally, is different than overseas trafficking. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the stuff that happens overseas is a lot of the stuff we see in the movies, where there's kids being kidnapped in vans, and there be the different politic things. There's all that crazy stuff you see over there. Kids underneath buildings, like babies being put out on the streets and all that. Yes, that happens, but a lot of that happens over across seas. We have to get familiar with what happens here in your community, because what happens here in Louisville, Kentucky is different than in Indianapolis or Chicago or LA or down in Texas, because each community has its own circumstances. It could be a matter of poverty, it could be a matter of just a corrupt system that you have formated in your community. So you want to get into your community. If this is something you want to get into, like I hear people all the time say, man, I want to get involved in fighting and help with extractions and things like that. Well, we do extractions. Extractions is where you go in and you help get victims out. It could be children, it could be adults. And so you have to get trained for stuff like that. So reach out, Google, plug into your community, find out who's in your community or in the community around you, and get involved. You know, there's all kinds of things to do, and not only that, but get educated, because unfortunately, I don't have my spare phone, but unfortunately, a lot of us are inviting traffickers in when we talk about children through our phones, through these games, through these chat rooms that they have. All these different apps. So,
That's how they make contact with kids. That's how the predators make
what just happened?
I don't know. Did
Okay,
you
I'm back.
freeze
I don't
up?
know. My phone kicked me out. My phone's weird. Um, so think about it, right? Like everybody that if even if you don't have kids, you got nephews, you got whatever, right? These kids will meet somebody online, and within 2 days, they come running to you. That's my best friend. That's my best friend. Oh, mom, I met this new friend. I'm talking to him, right? That's even if you got a relationship where your kids come and tell you this stuff. Then say, your kid's a teenager, preteen, whatever. They get them hormones, they get a little bit of attitude, they want that ounce of, like I'm feeling myself. And you get they get mad at you. Well, they go upstairs and they text that friend that they just met. They thought it was a kid. Hey, did it mommy and daddy's, whatever. Next they build that trust up with them, and that next thing you know, they're telling them to leave the school or whatever, you know what I mean? And they're picking them up down the street or in front of your house because you don't even know it. So we have to get involved. If we want to be proactive, we have to be just as active as traffickers are going to be. If we're just sitting around with our head in the sand, this is going to happen to a family member in your family, not even in your community anymore. This is getting very, and I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not going to go into a whole big thing about this because that's for another day, another time, another show. But even with like the borders and all that shit that the news and the media tries to pump in your head, honey, we need to worry about traffickers that are right here that are living in your neighborhood. Because again, the white van theory, the cartel. And again, I'm not saying that they ain't running stuff because we all, that would be delusional. But what's going to affect you in your community? Because it's happening in your community. It's happening in your schools. It's happening to, anywhere there are children, anywhere there are vulnerable people. And so I just want us to stop living in Hollywood and overseas. And, now if you're in Texas, 100%, or anywhere around the borders, 100%, that's your community. You need to involve. You need to know what's going on, who's bringing what. You need to know there's a difference between smugglers and traffickers because they're not the same. You know what I mean? Like you need to get yourself educated on all these things. But again, that's their community. But if you live in, say, Idaho, that's probably not going to affect your community. So find out what's going on there. And trust me, the good thing about it is survivors and people like myself, like survivor leaders, we have stood to the mountaintop in the last 7 years and screamed human trafficking, listen to us, hear us, and unfortunately, we even had to really exploit ourselves and tell our trauma porn is what we call it. Because people will listen to us if I tell you I've been buried alive or I've been raped, and beat with a pistol and all this stuff. But they won't listen to you when you're having an educated conversation and tell you get your head out of your sand and listen to your community, listen to the kids in your community, teachers, if you guys are listening, or counselors, that kid that's giving you a hard time, even if it's not trafficking, please find out what's going on with them. Because to me, trafficking happens before, majority of the time, trafficking happens before the actual trafficking happens. Because my trauma started when I was a very young child and it never let up. And I never got any kind of help for it, which in turn made me very vulnerable for someone to groom me, which is that, that kind of online talking that I was talking about just a little bit ago. Maybe buying your kid, giving your kid extra stuff or giving, your young friend, or even one of your homegirls, somebody some extra stuff, doing all this extra, that's the Romeo type. They're going to groom you. So if I didn't have those vulnerabilities, maybe I would have never been in the situations I've been in. Yeah. Maybe if I got the help that I needed, maybe I wouldn't have been in those situations. So again, this is we can fight for freedom and we can fight for justice, but if we ain't fighting for our kids, and the last thing I'll say before you ask me anything else is please do not use the hashtag Save Our Children. We are not a political ploy. We will not be re-exploited in the name of politics.
Now, the Save Our Children hashtag was ripped off by QAnon and
ripped off by QAnon, made into a political ploy.
That is why it's necessary to draw distinction between the hashtag and the actual organization that's working to save children.
Yes. And so a lot of people use that and don't understand. Like I've had people, and like I said, the organization, awesome. But see, this is what politics does, right? They
Yeah.
make the hottest topics their agenda and they don't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I hate
Right.
to break it to everybody, but all the things that are passed is because survivors and non-survivors have worked their ass off to make legislation happen and get the laws in place and get the victims' rights in place that we've gotten in place yet far. And there's so much more to come, right? Like in each state, we're all
Hmm.
working on stuff because we want people to start listening. There's a lot of survivors. You can Google survivors of human trafficking. It's kind of lame, but you can do that and you can find out different stories. You know what I mean? Like research. We have to research. Human trafficking was number 3 in the most, like, making the most money globally. It was like guns, drugs, and trafficking. Well, like, no, wait. Yeah, it was guns, drugs, and trafficking. It is trafficking is now number 2 to where it was number 3 of the most money that's being made. And they were making over $32 billion. Like, and that's what we know about. Because as we know, whatever the statistics are, there's
Right.
a whole underground that we don't even know about.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. And it's not just little girls either,
no,
right?
it's so I work with a lot of male survivors, a lot. I've been actually been talking about this a lot on my show here lately. And given we've had a couple survivors come up and tell their stories that were males, because people need to understand this happens to boys, this happens to men. I won't say as much, but very closely. You know what I mean? Like, if I don't
Mhm.
know, maybe as much actually. Probably me and my husband were just talking about this. Like, it probably is just as much, but there's a lot of victims that don't come forward because of the society we live in. Men can't come forward and say, hey, I've been molested, I've been raped, I've been trafficked, this happened to me, that happened to me, because we live in such a society to where it's like, men's feelings, you need to stuff it and keep moving and be a man. And that's why we
Right.
have a bunch of, excuse my French, but a bunch of fucked up people walking around because nobody's taking the time to heal the things that happened to them when they were kids.
Yeah.
So, but yes,
And
it
you
happens
mentioned
to.
you mentioned the religious ritual as a way of introducing them into trafficking, and a lot of Catholic priests have been found guilty of of such acts.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the crazy thing, right? Like, because if you really follow some of the stories and even just your, the news stuff that comes out, people are like, oh my God, priests, oh my God, teachers, oh, judges, sheriffs, all these powerful people. And I talk about this a lot. I even actually talked about this at the United Nations. Like, we have so many people that no one would ever think. And the same thing with this Maxwell chick. Like, these people's names are gonna come out and they're going to be like, and that's why they're trying to hold him so much. They killed Epstein to make sure it didn't get out. So,
Yeah.
but I do think, at least, if I'm not, from my understanding, I don't want to put a number on it, but I'm going to say at least here soon, there should be a couple names being released. That's
Okay.
just from what I've heard. So,
Okay.
again, my opinion, not solid. Don't nobody come down and be like,
Right.
Silver. That's what.
Yeah.
I'm
And
hearing on the
they
floor.
will anyway.
Oh,
I
I know.
mean, yeah.
I'm
But
learning YouTube. I'm just like that.
okay, you mentioned your show. You're primarily on Facebook, right?
Yeah, well, I started using StreamYard now. So I do on Facebook and YouTube. And it's Hot Mess
Okay.
Real Talk Summer. So, and we talk about all
Hot
kinds
mess,
of
hot mess, girl talk,
Hot Mess Real Talk with
real
Summer.
talk. Hot. That's how
Mhm.
people can find you. Hot mess, real talk.
Or
Because it
Summer
is. Yeah. I'm sorry.
or Summer Dickerson on Facebook.
Summer Dickerson on Facebook. Okay. All right. You got anything else before we close out?
Nothing, just thank you for getting this kind of stuff out there. You know what I mean? Because we
Hey,
need more
we'll have you
platforms.
on again. We'll have you on again, in a few weeks, and we're gonna keep talking about this. Not everybody's going to see this episode, and this is something that's not going to go away if we're not active on it. So we're going to keep talking about it if it's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, darling.
All right, thank you.
See you soon.
Later.
All right. The wonderful Summer Dickerson. Thank you for joining. Hey, thank you all for watching. Coming up on Friday, tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the second episode of American Dufus Sports on the National Football League divisional round playoffs and giving you some suggestions and some tips. And of course, we'll be back with regular episodes as warranted. So hit the subscribe button. If you're a subscriber already, hit the bell so you know when we're back on, because we will be back on. And thank you all so much for watching. Great show, powerful show. Please hit the share. Please let other people have an opportunity to hear some words that need to be heard from Summer Dickerson. I love you all. It's a dark world. Do try to be a light. It's the American Doofus Show, but don't be a doofus.